All right, well, I'm really excited. We have another episode here, and with us today we have Cam Satterwhite, who, to be transparent, I found through LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm always trying to connect. I feel like that platform is a good way to meet people authentically, where you can get to know them a little bit through their resume. But with Cam, there was one particular post I saw you posted a baseball picture, and you looked familiar on that picture. So I had to dive a little deeper, and I realized that there's a chance we might have crossed paths on the diamond. But even more so, I admire kind of what you're doing as an entrepreneur as well. Our
Appreciate it.
message is kind of similar, where we come from an athletic background that took us through college, and you took it even a little bit further, which I'm looking forward to let you kind of walk down. But first of all, man, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
of course, man, of course. So do me a favor, give me that little elevator pitch. Give me that little bit about who you are. Let everybody who's listening know
Yeah.
who Cam is.
Yeah. So Cam Satterwhite. I'm born and raised here in Cincinnati, Ohio, the great state of Ohio, I guess.
Mhm.
And I'm a baseball player, right? Former baseball player. Played ball for a long time, played at local Archbishop Moeller High School, where, names like Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Larkin
Okay.
came from.
Okay.
So I did really well there. I got my name in the record books. Broke a couple records. I'm in the Hall of Fame there. So
Oh,
it
congrats.
was appreciated, man. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
Um, and subsequently talked a family member into going as well. He went. He also now is in the record books for
Uh,
football. He's at Michigan. So it's just been a great connection for the family.
that's
Um,
all.
went from actually so I was drafted out of high school, didn't sign, went to Indiana University, played ball there for a year, transferred out to University of Cincinnati. Finished out there. It was a great experience. Got a chance to play pro ball afterwards. And so what and to name drop a little bit, Josh Harrison was
Yeah.
my roommate. He's a good friend of mine. So he and I keep in touch, but we got a chance to play together at UC. So he kind of brokered that deal. So he was kind of like my agent before the agent. So
Yeah,
it
there you
was
go.
it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
um,
That's
so
not bad.
then, there's worse people to advocate for you. I
For
can say
sure.
that.
For sure.
So I was grateful, man.
Yeah.
From there, played a little pro ball in the Reds organization. It was a great time. Had met a ton of great people, had a lot of great stops, made some great connections that are still with me today. And I spent time in financial services after that. And so as I was spending time there, I obviously was looking around and I'm like, it's something with athletes, right? I'm a former athlete myself. There's something with us athletes, and this was something that really, athletes are always near and dear to my heart, and so it was something that spoke very closely to me being in the space because I realized like, man, I'm here. I could be a conduit of help, and
Yeah.
so we didn't have anything for athletes and entertainers at the time. And so I'll leave the brokerage firm that I was affiliated with unnamed, although you don't have to search too hard to find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've made a pitch to them to try to do something around athlete and entertainment management. And they said something to me that I'll never forget that kind of it's a lot of backstory, but this is the driver for where I'm at today. And it was professional athletes are those one percenters. And it's great you want to focus there, but we want to focus on the 99. And I was like, okay, that's fair. And so
Hmm.
for me, it's kind of been a life mission now to combine the two, right, and figure out how can I do this with finance or work with athletes and entertainers, but also genuinely be there for them, and not look at them as like, well, we want to work with these other people. And
Yeah.
so from that was birthed the players equity. And so obviously there's some financial jargon in there, the word equity, right? And kind of understanding that. NIL comes around and you see a lot of equity in terms of what these athletes are worth, what they're making, what they're talking about. And
Hmm.
so, just kind of parlaying my experience in financial services into what it is that I'm doing now, and then leaning into giving education insight and really helping out to not take advantage of these athletes, but more to educate them is really where I'm at and what I'm all about.
Yeah, and I think that's dope because obviously I think was cool is that you leveraged where you were in life when you were an athlete, right? So I don't want to gloss over it. Being a pro athlete is the pinnacle for almost every athlete, right? That's you spend all those years working, chasing, trying to stack, stack, stack to put yourself in that position. Um, for the athletes now, or those pro athletes now that we all know or played with in the past, that especially baseball, where it's tough to get to the bigs, what was that part of your life like, right? So you're playing with Cincinnati. You have you have the best shot because you're in the pool of people who are pros. Where did the mind shift start to happen? Where you're like, okay, I got to maybe think about life after the game.
You know what? That's an interesting question. I like
Mhm.
the question. And I will be very blunt and transparent with you. That didn't happen until I was sitting on my couch after being released.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I think, and I had an interesting conversation with a CFP financial advisor yesterday, and we kind of talked about some of this stuff, but, you know, we don't often have backup plans,
Hmm.
right? We're athletes. And so our backup plan is, well, I'm going to make it. Why do I need that? And
Yeah.
so for me, I really leaned into that as well. I didn't, I would say, that point in my life was really where I had to recreate myself.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you don't set out to play minor league baseball without
Right.
dreaming of hearing your name in a major league stadium.
Yeah.
And so, with that being the case, I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me my name's not going to be called in a major league stadium?
Yeah.
I'm not getting to the big leagues, and my journey is over now. And so, that was a tough time in my life and really tough to navigate. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's tough, man.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's so transferable, right? Like it's, for example, for us as athletes, that was our exposure to that feeling, to that experience. It could be somebody going for a job interview that you've worked your whole college career, your whole major to go get if you want to do something and you don't get the job. A lot of times that's when it hits us. What the hell am I going to do now? For me, it was different. It was early, and I don't know if that's lucky or unlucky. It was being drafted out of high school, going on a full ride to a Big East school, and then blowing my shoulder out on one pitch and knowing in that moment, looking back at it, knowing it's over. When you're a righty throwing in the 90s and then you go to a righty throwing in the low 80s to mid 80s, you're not the same prospect
Yeah,
anymore. And
yeah,
that happened to me during college. So I got a chance to be a to kind of convince myself that that wasn't the case, and I then to understand that that is the case. And it still was hard. I still coached college baseball after college for a couple of years because I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? So
yes,
it's I think for everybody just take a little lesson on understanding, but for athletes specifically, those pivots happen often, right? And we do it a lot of times. It could be on a day-to-day basis. If you're in a slump, it could be a week, it could be a career coming to an end, right? So from that time that you were like, all right, this isn't happening, you decided to go into finance. Was that something that you've always kind of pictured yourself doing, or is it something that presented itself at the time?
man, not at all. That
Yeah.
was, when using my baseball terminology, that was so from left field,
Yeah.
or maybe even, better yet, from right field. Right? It was
Right.
something that I just did not really fathom or ever think about. I started off working for my dad,
Okay.
and my dad does facility services, and so he does everything under the roof of of an office space. And so I kind of leaned into that to figure out, like, okay, I don't know what I want to do, but
Yeah.
I was newly married, I had a child. I was like, okay, I got to take care of business now. I got to
Yeah.
grow up. Long story short, I actually was working for my dad and went into a had a friend at the time who was the CFO of a prepaid debit card company. And
Okay.
so he was like, dude, listen, you could really do well in this. You have a lot of transferable skills and so on and so forth. And I was like, man, listen, the
Yeah.
only time I've ever thought about money is if we're talking about a contract, not
Yeah.
not this. And so I he kept talking to me about it over and over and over, and then he offered me an opportunity to come and make 20% more than what I was making working for my dad. And so I was like, sorry, Dad. I mean, at this
Yeah.
point, I'm married. I got a
Money
child.
talks.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm
Yeah.
out of here, man. So I walked and I
Yeah.
went over and I worked in financial services, and it was a good time for me. I learned a lot of things, but I learned about those transferable skills. And
Yeah.
so, then coming back, I went back and worked for my dad again. Um, and again, facility services. And so really trying to figure that out. And so I really spent a lot of that time really trying to find myself and
Yeah.
find my passion. And during that time in financial services, I really just loved what I did. And so I realized that the thing that I love is helping people, which I
Yeah.
was able to do. I was working in customer service. And so then when the opportunity came up for the financial services
Yeah. Yeah.
company,
Wear that out.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I back up.
Yeah.
When the opportunity came for the financial services company,
Right.
uh, I leaned in, and it was an opportunity for me to help people in a space that a lot of people struggle. And
Right.
so I leaned in there. I really love helping people. And so the more and more that I leaned in, the higher up I climbed. And it
Yeah.
ended up being a really great opportunity for me. I learned a lot, was able to connect with great people, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how I found my niche. Really finding things that I love.
That's yeah, so let's peel it back a little bit. So that's an interesting industry, right? So prepaid debit cards, that's kind of the field interest. So your introduction financially, right, is in an area that's I mean, we all know cards, credit cards, debit cards. It's a sensitive area. When you first stepped foot into that, what did you expect it to be? And what did it turn out to be for you? What did you take from it at the end of the day?
Yeah. So when I first came in, I was like, man, this is with money. And so
Yeah.
we're going to be talking dollars and cents. Math is not my favorite. And so
Yeah.
I don't know about this. Um, I went into the customer service space. And I think after the first couple, well, I was on social media. After the first couple of interactions, I was connecting with people and I realized, the mantra there was to bank the underbanked. And so
Okay.
I'm working with people who genuinely don't have the know-how to manage money. And
Mm-hmm.
so as I'm talking to them, it just became easier for me because I'm like, okay, they just need help. Like
Yeah.
I want to be here to help, right? And there was one story in particular, and I'll give you the short version of it, but there was a guy on a Friday, and he was like, my direct deposit just deposited, but my card is on hold. I have zero access to my funds. And I'm in Cincinnati Eastern time. It's like 4 o'clock. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm getting off in an hour. So hopefully
Yeah.
we can get you queued up. But long
Yeah.
story short, man, we couldn't. We
Right.
weren't able to get the hold off. And so I ended up staying until about 7:30
Oh
that
wow.
night. And
Wow.
I said he was getting frustrated. He was cussing and yelling. And I was like, man, listen, I said, I am not gonna leave you until we get this squared away for you.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, whatever, you just saying that because I said, listen, it's about you. This is
Yeah.
about you. And so we ended up getting his card unblocked, and to hear the thank yous, to see his words of encouragement, affirmation, feeling confident about the brand, for
Yeah.
me it made me feel good because I was able to pour into somebody else. It wasn't
Yeah.
even about anything. I didn't make any extra money. It wasn't about me, it was about him. And so
Right.
he was able to have a good weekend, and so that was something that really just poured into me.
Yeah, and that right there tells you when it comes when you deal with anything finance, especially personal finance. I mean, you're dealing with emotions, top level emotions, right? There's nothing.
Yes.
I mean, there's probably a short list of things that get people triggered more than money, and there's probably a short list of things that people need more than money, right? Even
Yes.
not in abundance, but just to live. Like
Yes.
something as
Yes.
simple as that, just him not being able to have that cash. Who knows what that meant, or maybe you do know, but like to what that meant to that individual, right? And
Yeah.
I know something that I rely on, right? So for me, my story is a little bit different. Like again, I had someone who believed in me, which got me into business ownership, owning a franchise in the fitness industry, which I thought getting into the fitness industry was going to be easy as an athlete. And then you realize it's the actual fitness part of it was 25% of it. The rest is how you relate to people, how you treat people,
Yes.
the kind of business that you have, right, with honesty and transparency. And that's where I realized the skills that transfer over, being a teammate, being a leader, being clear, being intentional with what you do, right, disciplined, things like that are huge. So to turn it back a little bit, when you were in the financial world, somewhere in your mind you were like, all right, I know that there's a group of people out there who have money or getting money as an athlete and don't know exactly what to do with it. We can spend endless time on this, but what is the major pitfall in your mind that you see people who come upon money quickly, and again, I want to be clear. I want to relate this to everybody. That could mean when you get your first job, and maybe you did nail that job that you wanted out of college, and you get a nice check. And what is the number one pitfall, the most common one you see in the financial industry with people, young people who get their hands on some money?
Great question. Easy answer.
Yeah,
Without doubt, two words for you: lifestyle inflation.
yeah,
Right, 100%. When I was working for the company I was working with, the financial firm,
hmm,
we would go and I was working with college athletes and college students. And, whenever you make more, it's like, all right, I'm making more. It's time to spend more. And
yeah,
and that's just not the case, right?
yeah,
I've had friends that have been, my buddy's a CFO of a local franchise here in
hmm,
Cincinnati, a very large franchise. And, he talked to me about his financial journey, right? And he was like, I started off making this and I learned how to manage and budget. But every time I made more and I got an increase, I lived like I was still making this.
yeah,
And then I just put the excess away, right? He's maybe a couple years older than me now, but he's a millionaire, right? And you
yeah.
would never know it by looking at him because he drives a Kia truck SUV, right?
Right.
He's living in, a modest house, what, $300,000 house, modest living,
Yeah.
but everything's paid off. He does everything in cash, right?
Yeah.
He has real estate out the wazoo, and he thinks about, I'm just holding these for my kids to pay for their college tuition so they don't come out with debt, right?
Right.
And so, when you think about it, is lifestyle inflation is the thing that happens, and it happens big time to athletes.
Yeah, 100%. So getting into your world a little bit, or in that world, right? So every once in a while when we go to colleges or we speak to athletes, it's common to hear people say, I want to help other people. I say it. It's what I it's truly what I like to do. I like to help other people. But once you turn that into a career or a business as an entrepreneur, it means something. So again, back to the point of finances. How are you able to get people to trust you? What was an important step that you think that anyone who's looking to help people, and maybe that means specifically in the finance industry, what's an important characteristic as a person, as an entrepreneur, to get people to disclose some of the most private, sensitive information that they can have, which then in turns you really need, right, to do what you do well, right? And that's the only way that you're going to continue to grow yours is do your job well, but you need people to trust you. What would
Yeah.
you recommend to somebody who's listening to this saying, you know what, I think I want to help people and I think I understand this. What would be step one? What do they need to hone in on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is my favorite word, which is integrity.
Right.
Is doing what you say you're going to do, right? And being a person of integrity. It's easy when you say you want to help people. It's easy to say, well, I'm going to do this until it's uncomfortable for me,
Yeah.
right? But if you lead with integrity, then you're like, you know what, man? Like it might be uncomfortable, but this mission doesn't stop. And
Yeah.
so, for me, even now, I'm still trying to grow my platform. I'm still trying to grow what I'm doing. But when I talk to anybody, they hopefully they've always, and I've heard it, but I'm hoping that it continues, right? Is people always talk about how genuine I am, how real I am, how transparent I am, right? And
Hmm.
so I try to lead with integrity at all times.
Yeah.
You can look me up anywhere, look up anything that I've done. If I've done something, I'm happy to tell you what I've done. But
Hmm.
at the same token, I always try to lead with integrity.
Yeah. That's huge. I was in a meeting, a closing meeting yesterday. And it's funny, I always recall, like sometimes when I just sit back and think about it, I think about the young entrepreneur and then where I am now, which really only is just experience changes you, right? And there's so many pitfalls when you're talking to a client or potential client where you can easily just agree and say, yeah, I'll do that for you, or yeah, that's how it's going to work. And then now I sit there and sometimes I'm so much more comfortable saying, well, I understand what we want it to look like and how we want it to go, but through experience, this is what probably how it's going to go, and this is what we have to do. And those are oftentimes hard conversations because you're not necessarily taking the bait and just disagreeing to get that contract. You're
Sure.
oftentimes trying to be honest and show, hey, down the road, because what I've learned is when you deal in this kind of industry and there's more than one interaction, at some point it's going to come back and say, well, you told me this. 2 months ago, you
Yes.
told me this, and I'm expecting this. And now it caught up to you. Now you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have took the bait. I should have been honest. And
Yes.
that does come with experience when you see things over and over and over again. But as an entrepreneur, because I don't want it to sound, because I think anybody, if you gave them the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, would do it. I don't want it to sound that easy. Once you decided to do the player's equity, um, what what is it like? What is it like actually starting your own brand and trying to break into the market?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll be very honest and transparent. I
Yeah.
am still in the proving phase, right? I'm still growing. I'm still proving the value of what it is that I do on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
I think, when I think about what it takes or what's important there, I think it's again, integrity is huge, right?
Hmm.
I think being able to say I'm going to do this and then
Right.
actually do it. But to your point, it's also important to say that's something I'm not able to do.
Yeah.
And I think about for me, my entrepreneurial journey really starts with the who I am, and I'll just share like one quick story. But when I was in my previous role, working for
Hmm.
the financial institution that we don't know about, uh,
Yeah.
I had a situation where we were paying out contracts, and there was a one of our clients was expecting a large contract, right?
Right.
And so we were responsible to pay that out. For all of my clients, I handled the billing, and so this one particular client I inherited, and so I didn't handle the billing up front,
Right.
and so long story short, they had like net 30 pay terms on a bill that was due, and we were like 70 or 80, 90 days out. And so they reach out and they're like, not to me, to my manager. And they're like, where's this bill at? Or
Yeah.
where's the check? We're looking for our money. And
Yeah.
so my manager comes to me and she's like, hey, where's this at? And I was like, I thought you were taking care of the billing because you had them. I was like, I'm happy to do it though. Like, let's get it done. And so, I got chastised for that
Yeah.
because I didn't do it. And, for me, I'm not in the blame game. So I was like, I circled back with the client. I said, hey, listen, we had this fell through the cracks, right? I'm
Yeah.
responsible for this. I'll make sure it gets taken care of by the end of the week. My
Yeah.
apologies to you. If there's anything else I could do, just let me know.
Yeah.
And the greatest point for me was actually doing it and having it paid by the end of the week. And
Right.
so, it wasn't the chastising wasn't what was important. It was being true and honest and really sticking to my word. And
Yeah.
that's something that I've also now come to really, really, really value as an entrepreneur.
Right.
If you can, a lot of times people have more grace for you if you can just follow through with your word
Yeah. Yeah.
than other things, right?
100%. I mean, because no one's perfect. Everyone's been in a position before where you made a mistake, and a lot of times you just want to hear how are we gonna fix it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like things
Yeah.
happen, but how are we gonna fix it? And I think that's what you kind of brought to that. And then here's my question. So with the players' equity, I think in this world, and I'll speak for myself, and then um, there's a fear with when it comes to personal finance or having go opening up to somebody about it to get more advice. And I feel like it literally just takes actually reaching out to somebody to break that fear. But I know that fear is real, and I know it's there. And a lot of times it can be for any reason. I'm not in the position to have any kind of guidance. I don't make the kind of money that I feel like I deserve to have that. Do you run into that with what you do? Um, are people coming to you for that? Is that not? Is that just a theory?
So, so no, I don't think it's a theory at all.
Right.
I have not dealt with that per se directly,
Mm-hmm.
but it's there.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I think a lot of times it's unspoken. So in my space, it's well, I already know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm
Okay.
okay with that, right? I don't necessarily need you because I know what I'm doing,
Okay.
right? But part of part of what's there is, you know, I think we've all done it, is sometimes as much as you think you know, you
Yeah.
still make mistakes, right? And
Yeah.
so like there's nothing wrong with sharpening your pencil and getting that help to sharpen your pencil. And so I
Yeah.
think, for me, I'm trying to my goal always is to take off the fear of somebody saying they need help.
Right.
So like intentionally, my fees for athletes and families, or athletic families is what we call them, is very low.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be a barrier that somebody's looking like, man, listen, I got to pay this guy,
Yeah.
$10,000 a month, right?
Right.
That's not what I want. I want it to be something very minuscule so that you can pay a little bit, get a lot of information, and guess what? I need no credit for
Yeah.
giving you this information, right? I
Yeah.
just want you to have it,
Yeah.
and that's really where my sweet sauce comes
Yeah.
in.
And I think when you're building a business and a brand, when you do that, what happens is then the trust that you garner from your clients, which then turns into firsthand recommendations or acknowledgement about who you are, who your brand is, the growth happens. Maybe it's not as fast, or who knows, maybe it is. But if it's not, but you could rest your head knowing, all right, I'm doing the right thing day after day, person by person, right?
Yes,
Now you're in I mean, there's not an industry that's not, but you're in an extremely competitive industry, in my opinion, from a ton of different fronts. You have long time professionals. You have an influx of AI and technology also meshing, trying to make it as simple as possible for people. What are kind of some of the lessons that you've learned to penetrate it and then separate the player's equity from others?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing I've learned is, you got to be comfortable and confident in being yourself, right?
Hmm.
My goal is to not get 100% of the market. My goal is to get a spot in the market,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not going to get every single person.
Yeah.
Somebody may come up with something very similar to what I do with the players' equity, and even if that happens, my goal again is not to get 100% of the market, right? That's
Yeah.
not my goal here. And there's a saying we used to always say this as my buddies around here say, it's enough for us to all eat, right?
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
we can all eat here. And so let's not get selfish. We can eat. And so
Yeah.
for me, I don't necessarily think about getting every bit of business. I want to be able to impact the people that do come to me. And
Yeah.
I think for me, the greatest gratification that I got literally thus far happened last night, where I mentioned I had a CFP on. I have a member who also is the basketball coach at my son's elementary. I'm his
Hmm.
assistant. And so the guy who spoke, the CFP, his student or his children go to the same school. And so the parent who's the coach saw the episode, but he watched it after the live. And so
Yeah.
he sends him a text, they're talking. Well, I get a text like 10:30 last night, 11 o'clock, and it's the conversation, right? And he's puts in there, he's like, dude, are you at an awesome conversation tonight? This was
Yeah.
great. I'm really like, I'm gleaning stuff just for me personally. And
Yeah.
so the guy who spoke, the CFP, was like, oh man, I didn't know you were on here. Like, that's cool. And the coach says, I'm a paying member. I'm a part of this, and I love what you guys are doing. Right.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the gratification that I'm doing the right thing. And I
Yeah.
just need to continue to move forward and scale.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's easy for people to get lost when you're chasing the masses. When you think that you are for everybody. It's a
Yes.
mistake that I made early in my business for sure, because the my CEO was always, and I get it, but reality is he was like, you should never say no, never say no, never say no. It just didn't work out that way, because our business, as it grew, we actually narrowed down who we were targeting, right? And we got
Yeah.
really, really, really good at the people that we worked with. And sometimes that meant saying no or being brutally honest with people and for what them to expect, right? From that standpoint, it's the hard part. Now, the how do you handle so even that story, right? It just took you putting yourself out there, having a talk with somebody, putting your knowledge out there. Was that something that was always easy for you? Like, let's say social media presence, personal brand, or is that something that you've had to, as of recent, start to learn and try to master even more now?
Yeah, so I think I've been comfortable putting myself out there. I
Uh-huh.
will say the thing that has made me uncomfortable is not being the smartest person in the room
Yeah.
and not having all the right answers.
Hmm.
And so for me, part of the build of this business is targeted on me not being the smartest person in the room,
Yeah.
right? I remember as a elementary kid, student,
Hmm.
etc. Right? I was a peer mediator, and
Right.
so being a peer mediator, you had two conflicting parties on both sides, and you were the middleman trying to help them reconcile their situation.
Yeah.
What I'm doing today is the peer mediation for athletic families and vendors, right?
Yeah.
Because there are so many vendors that want to work with people,
Yes.
athletic families, right? And there's so many athletic families that want to get the right vendor. And
Yeah.
so for me, I am that peer mediator. But and to the point of what I'm making is I do not know everything.
Yeah.
Like when I was in financial services, I thought about getting my CFP because I wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. I wanted to
Right.
be the guy to pull the trigger and write the notes and do everything and do the planning and guidance with every athlete. And then I
Right.
realized I took a step back and I was like, wait, there's so many people around this country that already have it. They already do this.
Mhm.
I lose traction by trying to get it.
Yeah. Totally.
So how can I now put myself in the peer mediator seat with a CFP who's already got everything they need and an athletic family who needs to work with the CFP? And oh, by the way, you can meet on the player's equity.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
So
The
that's
the dynamic of the athletic family that you're working with, right? Um, I know those who are like NILs have changed the game. From when I was playing, there was no such thing as NIL.
same.
It's a totally different ball game, and I think it's new for everybody, right? You're seeing it's fast, it's happening fast, and you're seeing universities pivot, and you're seeing coaches and recruiting philosophies change, transferring ability change. The athletic family, are you seeing that getting younger and younger now today compared to what it was even 10 years ago?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question. So again, being here in Cincinnati, Ohio, there was a news article I sent to my dad
Hmm.
back in the summer, and it was a high school basketball player from Ohio at the time
Hmm.
who signed a seven-figure NIL deal, right? And so this kid, I mean, he can't even drive yet. He's 15, and I'm like, dude, you're not
Dang.
even, are you talking about getting, I was talking about getting attempts. You're talking about millions, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
we had that conversation and then he transfers into a local high school. But again, he's 15, 16 years old. And
Yeah.
so, when you think about it like that, these kids are getting younger and younger and younger. And
Hmm.
my part of the fear, not fear, I think fear is negative, but part of the thought process is 72% of athletes file for bankruptcy within 5 years of retirement, right?
Wow. Yeah.
That's prior to NIL.
Wow.
So understanding that, what does the NIL for college and now high school,
Yeah.
what does that do to that number?
Yeah.
Right? My and this is a fear. My fear is what happens to the 15-year-old who signs a multi-million dollar NIL deal,
Hmm.
doesn't plan for taxes. Mom and dad have never had that type of money, so
Yeah.
they don't know who to trust. Oh, and by the way, because he's making so much money, they think they have all the answers,
Yeah. Yeah. Scary.
right?
Yeah.
It is, and so we'll see that. Hopefully, we don't see that number grow. That's the number that I'm after.
Yeah, yeah, but to be fair, I mean, you nailed it. Like, I mean, even for me in my situation, my dad went to college, but a little bit later in his life, like even what I went through was new to my parents. And I was just going to college and getting a scholarship. We didn't
Yeah,
know the right steps technically to take. We could have gone. It could have gone a multitude of different ways, depending on who stepped in at that time and who gave us advice. And I see it now. And I'm in Jersey, and we have good high school football. And we have a couple high school football teams that are recognized in the country. And I was talking to a young man who's now committed to University of Tennessee. He'll go there next year. But his mom reached out. She's a single mom, and it's fun not to age myself, but I know his dad from well, I'm younger than his dad, but when I was a kid, I know his dad, and I didn't put that together till I met the young man. I'm like, wow, that circle is crazy. But she's a single mom, and she's like, I got a guy who at this school that he plays football at sends Division 1 players all the time. It's what they're known for. But now they're starting to get money. And now there's a guy, and I'm not even talking bad about the guy because I've never met him, but who is having them sign with him to represent them as an NIL for uh to get them the best deals. Now, there's a real fear with that because there was not that I'm aware of, there's no qualifications that qualify him to get the right to some of these kids who are, like, for example, not going to play on a full ride to the University of Tennessee. It's a
Mhm.
fear because money brings people out, the good intentions and the bad intentions, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
like you said, this isn't it. College is scary enough, in my opinion, because I think about myself. If I, if I had more money than I had to go get a piece of pizza, in New York, it would be a different story. You know what I mean? It
Yes.
would have been a
Yes.
different story. The West Village would have been a whole different experience. It's like, but it's scary. It's scary to me. What are you seeing? Do you think most of those families are doing it on their own, or do you think they're looking to somebody and some of them find the right person and some of them find the wrong person?
So I think it's the latter, right?
Yeah,
And to your point, I mean, anybody can get in the space and call themselves a professional at this point, right? Like
yeah,
there's no certifications, there's no qualifications that need to be met. And my not my fear, I think it's just the reality of it is some of these athletic families are going to get burnt,
yeah,
period, right? And
yeah,
so for me, I'm not here to tell somebody that the person they're working with is not good,
yeah.
right? Or the person that, is trying to help you is a bad guy, right? Or somebody's trying to take you for all your money. What I'm here for is I'm here to find those vendors, right?
Yes.
Again, even yesterday, and part of the frameworks that I put on my site is, what is a CFP and what's the difference between a CFP and somebody who does not have a CFP? That's something
Yeah.
we talked about even last night, but I have frameworks, right? And I'll say this for the sake of the conversation here, but if I'm not a CFP, so if I'm just a financial advisor,
Mm-hmm.
I may do all the right things, right? But I operate off of a different standard. I operate
Yeah.
off of suitability, right? So
Yeah.
if it's something that fits you, then I can put you in this vehicle, regardless as to how it impacts you, because I can make money off of
Right.
it that way, right? But if I'm a CFP, then I operate off of a fiduciary standard, which means I have to do what's best for you before I can do what's best for me, right?
Right. Right.
And I've talked to Major League Baseball players, guys who are household names that didn't even know just that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so when you talk about a standard, there isn't one right now as it relates to NIL and what's happening with these dollars. And I think the best thing that people can do, which, not a plug for my own business, but people should go out and educate themselves,
Yeah.
right? Ask the questions. Make sure that you are genuinely getting the I think
Yeah. You're back. You're
but
back.
my buddy called. All right, sorry
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
man.
You're
My
good. You're
guy
good.
just called me, got my stuff connected to the phone, man.
That's all good. That's all
We can
good.
edit that though, right?
Yeah, we could definitely edit that out for sure. But
Uh,
you know what? But that's a good point though, because you actually answered my question before it. And one of my businesses is I'm a partner in a mortgage brokerage, and that's something I got into, and I learned a lot while being in it. Is I bought a house, I have a house, blessed enough, but part of being a mortgage lender or lending officer for mortgages is your job is to present the best options for your clients. You don't work necessarily for a bank. You don't work for a single bank where those clients then fall under the terms of that mortgage lending company. You are somebody who goes out and we work together, and then based off of your situation, we provide you with a handful of options. Okay, this is what the terms, this is what the percentage is, this is what the prepayment penalty is. All that stuff that matters to people that they may not
Yeah.
know matters to people. So my question to you, and you just kind of answered it, but is this something that you recommend, whether they're currently making money as an athlete or those who have the ambition to make money? Should they just reach out for educational purposes? Is there a certain point you think is the right time to find somebody?
Personally, it's kind of a chicken and the egg conversation, but
Hmm.
I will say that anytime that's early is the right time, right?
Okay.
Like, I think the fear is, well, I'm too early. I'm not making money. I'm not doing this. My kid's not making money. There's no time that's too early to educate yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and for me and the players' equity, that's what we're about is education. I
Right.
am not here to say, man, I will broker that deal for you.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm not here to say I am going to manage your presence on social media. I'm not here for that, right?
Yeah.
But what I am here for is to bring the people in who will do it, who are really wanting to work with you, right?
Right. Right.
There's a lot of kids nowadays where, we talked to, again, I keep referring back to the conversation last night because it was a good one. But,
Yeah.
there's parents that are like, listen, I've managed a lot of money before. I do my own portfolio management. I got you. Cool.
Hmm.
No
Yeah.
problem, right? But have you ever managed $1 million plus
Right.
for
Right.
for a 16-year-old, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Have you ever managed the taxes? Right.
Yeah.
One of the conversations we talked about yesterday is, do you know who FICA is?
Right.
Are you prepared for FICA? Right.
Right.
Like, these are things that a lot of people, if you're not really ingrained in the space, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's, to me, I don't think it's ever too early. I think the earlier, the better. Right. I'm part of my joy in this is preparing for my kids as well.
Yeah, totally. And I don't mean to make this like because I know the athlete family streams from young to professionals, but I'm interested in this. Do you see or have you had the opportunity to see universities, and I'm talking colleges, universities, Division 1 to 3, prioritize this? Put people like you in front of student athletes to start the conversation. Are we there yet?
So I will say yes. Um, in lanes,
Okay.
right? So when I was working for the brokerage firm that I was with,
Uh-huh.
we went to universities and we talked about, general financial education. We did
Okay.
that.
Right.
Somebody is going and talking about branding. This is what you should or should not put on your social media, right?
Right.
The issue is it's not packaged, right? It's not together. Right now
Hmm.
you're working in a silo, right? And so that's what we do, right? That's what the players equity is all about. It's packaged with us.
Right.
You have right now I can get in front of anybody and get the information and then have them share the information with the group, right? But it all streams through the platform. And so
Right.
for
Right.
me, this is one central place. I'll leave the specific naming out, but I
Yeah.
have had a university come to me and ask, would you be open to working with our school? And I would love all of our students to have memberships, all of our student athletes to have memberships to your platform. And
Yeah.
so that's something that I'm working through and trying to get up to speed because I think it's very in line with what they need.
I mean, think about it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about University of Cincinnati. I just know for us, and even when I coached after, you know, we didn't we didn't have a lot of this. I don't know if it was as present as it is now, but I know what I'm finding is I think that universities, when they hear another athlete come back and they're willing to bring some of the professional knowledge, they are open to doing it, right?
Sure.
But I think
Sure.
there's also a ton of room to grow. And I think there's a ton of room and pressure on these universities where you could really separate yourself by providing these services for your student athletes just to get them in a room and let some former athletes or professionals who can understand them well and speak to them in their language to where they can relate a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and that's what excites me about kind of what you're doing and even what we're doing a little bit is that it's still young, it's still new, in my opinion. It's still new. To where I do feel I don't know why this is, but I do feel student athletes, or at least maybe it's just because the lane that I'm in now. I do feel like they're open to this kind of information, and they do realize the playing career is going to end a little sooner. And I don't know if it was I was naive during my career, and maybe other people were thinking that way. I just wasn't thinking that way
You
until
were.
it
You were.
happened. But it was just. But now I think these student athletes. I've met some great young student athletes who are thinking ahead and thinking about, all right, I've made it really far in my career. How can I leverage this? How can I continue to grow off of this and learn from people, right? So, but then the other part of it is, and I want this where I want kind of the shameless plug is I have athletes who are at that in between where you can't realistically ask them to start to think about life after sports because they're right there. They're making strides. They're getting small NIL deals. They're starting to kind of compound successes. Um, so so for something like your platform, when an athlete comes to you, shameless plug, what are they getting? What are they signing up for?
Yeah. So, I mean, they're basically signing up for access to information
Okay.
when they come on. So, one of the joys of what I do is I've met with several former professional athletes already.
Yeah.
Football, and I have an NFL guy on, NFL running back. I've had Major League Baseball players on. I'm
Yeah.
working on some NBA players and former NBA players and having those conversations. Um, when you have these guys on, right? This is post career. A lot of these guys, they can talk to you about, man, listen, I made X amount of dollars, but these are the things I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And when I am vetting with them, which before I started this, I vetted with former professional athletes, college athletes,
Hmm.
currently in the NIL space, their
Yeah.
families, and I said, is this something that would be of value to you?
Right.
Right? Like, is this something where you would say, man, I have to be a part? And I would tell you, every single one of them said yes.
Yeah.
I've had professional athletes already who have been on and was like, man, listen, I didn't really know what to expect, but that conversation and what you're giving is invaluable. I
Yeah.
wish that I would have had that when I played. Right?
That's-
Like when you have that type of feedback, at
Yeah.
least for me as the founder, I'm like, man, I got to keep going because
Yeah.
this is something people need,
Yeah.
right? And so I would encourage, just for your viewers and for your listeners, if they are if they are already in the space of getting NIL deals, they're already in the midst of potential trouble if they are unaware of what's ahead of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so NIL is fantastic, but you got to know you're going to be taxed. You are a
Yes.
1099 independent contractor. You are going to be taxed. If you're not
Yes.
putting away for that, you're in trouble. You're
You're
going
in
to have
trouble.
problems, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are things you need to be thinking about.
Yeah.
And so that's something just on the surface, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? I ran into a football player he's training for the combine now. Great guy. He went to 4 different universities in 4 years,
Yeah.
major universities, right?
Yeah.
Like major universities. And I was having a conversation with some other athletes just the other day, and they're like, man, that's great, but that brings up character issues when you go to the combine,
Right.
right? Who would
Right.
have thought that me transferring, trying to get more money in NIL would create an issue for me when I'm trying to get to the promised land, which is the NFL,
Yeah.
right? So
100%.
again, these are the conversations and information that are had before you get into that
Yes.
space of, oh man, it's too late now. Have the conversations, right? And my last plug is, it's I won't say cheap. It's inexpensive enough to be able to make the investment for less than $420 a year. You can be
Hmm.
a part of this. You can learn all the information, connect with all the people. Every single professional athlete I've talked to is okay with their information, their contact information being on the site. You can
Yeah.
reach out. I've had people already reach out to former NFL guys, former MLB guys, and talk to them, right? Like,
Yeah.
have a conversation off platform.
Yeah.
So I would definitely do it. Get the information before it's too late.
It's invaluable. It's invaluable just to be able to have people to talk to, honestly. But different people
Yes.
to talk to. It's invaluable. It's what the athlete CEO is based around. It's I'm never going to know enough that it would be sufficient for me to try to answer every person's questions. The
Yes.
magic of this is meeting people like you, meeting people that we've had on before that are part of our group who are professionals in this industry. Those are the people you want to be talking to, right? And you just want
Yes.
people who you have that natural trust as a former athlete that you kind of feel, okay, I know I can speak to them and I trust where they're steering me. That's invaluable. That's huge.
Yes.
And you will
Yes.
learn just naturally, just by that, you will learn a ton. And it's in professional terms, it's like going to that networking event, right? Like it's that beginning, that initial grind you just have to put yourself through when you're trying to break into the professional world. That's what I love about what you have going on is you're giving people the opportunity to kind of get started in this or to learn. Maybe they apply it now. Maybe it saves them now. Or but once you learn something, you know it because I've seen the
Yeah.
1099 nightmare happen for employees of mine who didn't
Yes.
understand. And I assume they understand what being a 1099 was. I didn't know that the
Yes.
understanding stopped at I'm just going to see more money in my paycheck. I didn't know that's where they stopped. And then they call
Yes.
me at tax time and say, "Wait a second, I got this number." Well, that's what a 1099 is. So I've seen so
Yes.
whether you learn it as a freshman in college and maybe it doesn't apply, maybe you don't get that Gatorade NIL, but down the road you're a 1099, you'll know it. You'll know the information.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's huge. This is you've given a ton of gold, but what I want to bring it back, and I always try to end it on this. When somebody who's sitting now just listening to this, and like let's say you're walking to class, you're on the bus ride going to a game, and their wheels are turning a little bit, and they kind of outside of wanting to use your platform, but more so want to do something similar to what you're doing today, starting something, putting yourself out there, challenging yourself. What would you recommend to that student athlete who's there and is like, I can maybe create something and I could be an entrepreneur, but a lot of our fear of being a student athlete is that we don't have the experience because we spend a lot of
Yeah.
time in our craft. We don't get necessarily do
Yes.
the internships. We don't get those jobs. So I know the fear comes with that. So what would you tell that person who's listening?
I think the biggest thing that I would share is your time is invaluable,
Hmm.
right? Like the relationships you're gathering are invaluable. You can put you can feel like the time you're spending with people is not important, or you want to kind of expedite to get to this point. There's a crossroads for everybody, right? And
Yeah.
so you if you get there too early, you're gonna fall on your face,
Yeah.
right? And so I think there's a time. I know for me, I was, when I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, always, but I
Hmm.
never really knew what the right idea was. I've done a bunch of different things. I had a wood baseball bat company for some time. I started a clothing line for some time, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that all those things have now, prepared me for where I'm at today,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm wearing my branded shirt.
Hmm.
Now this is my sweatshirt, my hat. These are things that I learned when I had my clothing line.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so if I would have jumped in front of this, I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now.
Yes.
Um, the background, I made the background, right? If I
Yeah.
if I would have, I learned this when I was, again, my clothing line, right? So if
Yeah.
I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
right? If I
Exactly.
didn't work in corporate, I wouldn't be able to have a conversation like this. So everything you're doing prepares you for where you're going. Don't rush it, right? Even if you want to build my exact platform. I will
Yeah.
say that I've sharpened my pencil for years, and I'm not trying to say that I'm the guy, but I've sharpened my pencil. And,
Yeah.
and it's gotten me to the point where I am today, right? To
100%.
where, you talk about the resilience, the delayed gratification. It's going to take time, right? I want to make millions right now, but I'm not there yet, right? And
Yeah.
so understanding that everything that I've done in my life has prepared me for where I'm at right now, and I would encourage everybody to understand that for themselves.
Great, 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 great advice, man. Don't look past everything you go through. Right now you may be a college athlete and it could be having a bad outing yesterday. It's all about how you handle it, how you recover, how you bounce back, because you will be able to draw back on those as life goes on. Like you might not be where Cam is now in this space, But those who understand that the journeys and the battles we're going through now, and I wasn't great at this. I had to at some point look back and be like, oh, I can relate this to something I did. I can relate this to something that coach said to me at one point. If I could change one thing, it would be kind of what you're saying is understand that everything you're going through will lead you to something else and make you better down the road. I think that's outstanding advice. And I think people need to really consciously take time, maybe not every day, but take time to really understand what you're doing in your life, how important how hard you're working, the skills that you're honing. And I only think it helps, man. I'll tell you this, this excites me because I think when we have good people in the industry, good people trying to help people. I feel like it's a great opportunity for our fraternity as athletes from doesn't matter the sport, doesn't matter the university, under the big umbrella as athletes, to have good people helping is important. And I think what you're doing is great. I recognize that from the beginning. And to
Appreciate
that
it.
to that point, anybody who's listening who does want to reach out to you, what would be the best way to get in touch with you? Is it a LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? Is it email? What would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I would first say I am the player's equity on everything, whether
Okay.
that's Instagram, TikTok. I just got on Facebook, so I'm Cam Satterwhite on Facebook. So it's either the player's equity or Cam Satterwhite on LinkedIn as well. So
Okay.
either one of those two will put you in the right spot. But I'm happy to connect with anybody, everybody. Again, my whole focus is education. I want you to learn. I want you to grow. I want you to understand because when you sharpen your pencil, then you go into writing on the paperwork much more refined and ready to go. And
Yeah.
so that's really what I'm about. So feel free to reach out anytime. I would love to help.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all of that in the description as well, so it makes it easy. You can find it. But Cam, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And listen, I don't think this is gonna be the last time me and you connect. Might not be on camera, but outside of it, again, I value what you're doing, and I thank you for your time. I appreciate you putting away some time for us today, and I look forward to having you back, man.
Absolutely, Matt. Man, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you allowing me to share my message, my brand, my business. Best of luck to you with this. Absolutely will not be the last time. We got to get coffee or something in New
Exactly.
Jersey, right? On you. On you.
That's it. That's right, man. You come out here, it's all on me. I'll show you around. I
I'm
love
just
it.
better.
I love it. I love it. All right, thank you. Let's see here. I'm gonna